Hello there, I didn't see you. James Stephanie Sterling, or should I say chaste Stephanie Sterling today, for we do not want to, let's say, transgress any obscenity policies that YouTube may have enacted because, well, their rules are ever shifting, and I found out this past week that even if you obey them, you can still be punished as if you had disobeyed them. That is why I'm taking no chances. Not only am I demure and modest in my hempen sheets, we've managed to make sure that the lobster is similarly virginal. Ain't no one being naughty today.
Last week's video was doing big numbers, by my standards anyway, one of the fastest viewed videos on the channel in years. At the time of writing this script, it is now currently the least viewed episode of this series in history. What made the difference between this video's success and its abject failure? Why, who else could it have been but YouTube? Once again demonstrating its outright hostility to the very content creators on its platform while aiding and abetting the fraud, harassment and abuse that its own policies and selective enforcement of them allow. Even for someone like me, who is truly experienced in the myriad ways YouTube is a demoralising, miserable, just plain sad thing to work with, what they did last week has left me in utter disbelief. Like, seriously. You're not gonna believe what they did if you haven't heard about it already. So do join me as we look at that time Zelda fans got really mad at me, and it led to YouTube censoring the creation of Adam. And we're gonna do this in the most family-friendly, PG, inoffensive, cleanest way possible, because that's the conceit. Heckins. I won't even say cut. I honestly didn't expect to still be talking about my extremely well-written, salient and accurate review of the legendary Zelda Kingdom Hearts, but then again, I didn't expect this all to end with YouTube age restricting my rebuttal to the frothing fanboy anger it inspired for literally the most ridiculous reason possible, so there you go. Since I'm ensuring the unimpeachability of this video by giving YouTube absolutely no vulgarity, obscenity or inappropriate content, I cannot describe Zelda's extreme fanboys as accurately as I'd like, but we'll make do. So, the feculent poltroons who have made The Legend of Zelda their identity, a bunch of jobby-an-owls and ninny-hammers possessed of such mental frailty, they cannot brook the existence of a conflicting opinion regarding their new favourite children's computer game, haven't stopped being mad at me, and in all honesty, I've not exactly returned their anger with grace and politeness because, you know, they're dunderwhelps. They've choked up my social media with endless harassment, false accusations and bigotry since I dared to say Tears of the Kingdom was good instead of perfect. They can go and splump themselves, bunch of splumpkin frigate heads. Last week, I published my video rebuttal to the rabid fanbaby outcry, which served as a means of dissecting a classic non-argument such grindlemunters always trot out when they desperately want to discredit a review that doesn't agree with them. You didn't finish the game. It's a video I'm particularly proud of, one of the most extensive editing jobs I've ever done, featuring, to my mind, some of my sharpest writing and a number of excellent gags on a subject both interesting to discuss and enjoyable to poke fun at. I put some real love into showing my contempt, creating a video that I believe ranks among my very best. It's also, unfortunately, a video that roughly 30% of you couldn't access for most of this past week because within an hour or so of its publication, YouTube slapped an age restriction on it. An age restriction that made no sense whatsoever. Now, the last time I had a video suspiciously age-gated for no reason, it was one that ruffled Nintendo fans' feathers, and they seemingly responded to that video by mass reporting it as inappropriate until YouTube's jingle-fummeried bots enacted the restriction automatically with no human oversight. Doing this to a video because it's saying something you don't like about your favourite multi-billion-dollar corporation is, well, pathetic. It's hurtlingly pathetic. It's cowardly, it's slimy, it's infantile, it's downright as Gruber-trinistic. It also just seems to be a calling card of Nintendo fanboys, and they are mostly boys. This is, after all, the same bunch of buttersnakes who DDoS'd my website when I gave Breath of the Wild a 7 out of 10. The resort of the outraged Nintendo fan, it would seem, is censorship. It's the ultimate resort of vindicculous outraged gamer bros in general to try and silence critics and stamp out dissent. A delicious hypocrisy from a group who often claim to hate censorship but weirdly only apply their stated principles when it comes to defending stuff like hate speech. Whoever's to blame, though. The result was the same thanks to the one that's ultimately at fault. It was YouTube that went along with mob rule, that aided and abetted the harassment of one of its content creators, and who took a video that was doing quite well and cut its feet out from under it. Now, in a fair world that makes sense, age-gating a video shouldn't strangle it so badly it effectively dies on the vine. Is that too violent to say for this video? Are we alright? Well, grapes die on the vine, didn't they? It's not like violence. But this is a world in which YouTube exists, so that world of fairness and sensibility remains a fantasy. Age restricting a video doesn't just hide it from kids, but from anyone not logged in, who don't have YouTube accounts, and who view in restricted mode. It turns out, that's quite a lot of people. A number of my viewers, for example, understandably don't want a company as incompetent as Google to have their personal details, so haven't signed up and simply watch the videos without doing so. Despite the fact there's a YouTube Kids site specifically designed for children, and despite the fact that uploaders are required to state for the record that their non-child friendly videos aren't made for children, YouTube still has the power and willingness to restrict anything it arbitrarily deems inappropriate, and when it does so, it has a direct and devastating impact on the video that gets restricted. Meanwhile, I saw a video made for kids in which one of those My Little Pony characters was like necking vodka. Like, we can't let the kids watch YouTube unsupervised. The stuff that actually makes it to children is disturbing to say the least. And my stuff isn't even for kids. Before the age restriction, YouTube notified me that my video was getting a lot more views than usual. After that age restriction, however, its momentum stopped to such an extreme degree that, like I said earlier, it's looking like it'll be among the least viewed Jimquisition episodes in the show's near 10-year YouTube run. YouTube is very, very rewarding to work with, and not at all a stressful, hateful experience that I'd warn anybody to stay the spliff away from. After YouTube restricted the video, I did the natural thing and appealed it. Like with copyright claims, you get one appeal, and if it's rejected, you're done. It is, again like copyright claims, a system that severely disadvantages the content creator, as the ones making the claims and allegations have final say in response to the single attempt a creator can make to protect their video from spurious, dubious, and sometimes outright fraudulent decisions. Historically, I've had pretty decent luck getting an age restriction reversed, only one time having to rely on an old YouTube contact to do some digging and get one lifted on a video I made about a homophobic game, because while homophobia, transphobia, racism, and anti-Semitism are apparently allowed on YouTube, to such a degree it often gets promoted by the algorithm, daring to criticize any of it can land you in trouble. Neat! Anyway, despite my video containing nothing more objectionable than any other video I've made, in fact not being anywhere near the most vulgar ones in the series, YouTube rejected the appeal. Despite claiming to have carefully reviewed my 29-minute video, it rejected the appeal within 17 minutes, which does not sound to me like a careful review undertaken by human eyes. Of course, human oversight on YouTube is thin on the ground, so it's highly likely the only processing the video had had up to this point was automated. In any case, there was no further recourse via YouTube's system, so I did the only thing you can ever do in these situations. I went on Twitter and whined about it. This turned out to, fittingly, be a more effective system of appeal than YouTube's own system of appeal, as, following a deluge of questions and indignation from my audience, the Team YouTube Twitter account chimed in to ask for a link to the video, because they couldn't be bothered to scroll up a bit, with the promise that they'd look into it for me. I told them I'd love to know what it is my video did that was so wrong. They said this might take a few days because, as we know, YouTube videos totally do okay with a few days of algorithmic abandonment, don't they? It's well known to be a site where the first few days of publication totally don't matter. I'm being sarcastic if you couldn't tell. A day or so passed. The video remained restricted, its views having stuttered to a near halt. Eventually, Team YouTube came back with an answer so canned it could have passed for baked beans. Unfortunately, our policy team confirmed that the age restriction won't be lifted. We understand this wasn't the outcome you were hoping for, but you can learn about our age restriction policies to avoid this in the future. LMK, if you have any other cues. You'll note that nowhere in that response did they actually do the thing I asked them and tell me what, specifically, my video did that was so wrong, linking to a policies page I'd already been linked to that doesn't tell me a frungling thing. Anyway, they did say LMK if you have any other cues, so I LTK. What did the video do to get it? Why won't you tell me what the video did to get it? What did my other videos not do? What's the point of having a policy page when it doesn't help? Why is YouTube so arbitrary and inconsistent about its policies? What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
I didn't expect a single answer, but it felt good to vent, you know. What happened next surprised me. After a day of just shaking my head at the utter nonsense of it all, YouTube winded up for a pitch that I truly could not believe. One that would blow all previous silliness out of the water with an absurdity I could not have predicted. I got an email from Charlie and YouTube's community outreach team. I don't know if Charlie is an actual human or just another bot wearing the flayed skin of one, but in any case, they reached out, days after the age restriction, to finally tell me what my video did wrong.
Charlie says,
"We have determined that your video, You Didn't Finish the Game, the Jimquisition, was appropriately age-restricted as it contains nudity or other adult themes that are unsuitable for some audiences, specifically PG at 419. I empathise that this is not the outcome you were looking for, but the specialist review team has confirmed this decision." Do you know what the nudity, adult themes, or otherwise unsuitable content was at 419? Do you want to know what utter obscenity got my video restricted? Well, I sort of said it earlier, but let's pretend we're revealing it grandly. It was Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam. Yes, the fresco painting so lewd, so sexy, so downright sinful, that it's adorned the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel for centuries, a painting of such cultural, historical and religious significance it can be found almost anywhere, a masterpiece you can see not only in school textbooks, but in dozens of unrestricted flippin' YouTube videos. That was deemed in this one highly specific case to be inappropriate. To call it a reach is to understate how desperate YouTube's justification is. Stretch Armstrong couldn't get his arms that far. Now the weird latexy stuff would like snap and the strange powder would come out. Now yes, technically, Adam's got his Cumberbatch out, but we kind of already all decided as a culture, outside of truly regressive places, that Cumberbatches are fine in classical artwork, to the point where nudies can be found in Animal Crossing, as well as, again, plenty of other unrestricted YouTube videos. It's been theorised by some that YouTube specifying it was the creation of Adam was a case of YouTube trying to justify its algorithm's decisions after the fact. And people have had fun imagining the sheer relief felt by the review team when they felt they actually had some concrete nudity to pinpoint. Personally, I neither know nor care how they arrived at their decisions. I was so baffled by it, I went from being angry and sad about what YouTube had done to outright laughing my bass off. I mean, YouTube had just handed me a massive W here, deciding my next Jimquisition episode for me on the spot and giving me something utterly delicious to share with my lawyer and the growing folder of evidence I have that YouTube's treatment of myself and other creators is woefully unfair and unprofessional. What YouTube had done was literally emulate that episode of The Simpsons where Michelangelo's David was deemed obscene and censored. They just did it! They just became Helen Lovejoy. What a bunch of yummy King Goldars. Naturally, I had more questions, so I asked them. May you please provide me a detailed description of the nudity found at 419? I would like to be absolutely clear on the scale of nudity being restricted. Please be as descriptive as possible.
Can you tell me what the image at 419 is? I'd love to get an idea of YouTube's application of cultural understanding. Please can you tell me the name of the source image, its artist, and where the piece is physically located? Will you be restricting every video that contains the image seen at 419? Even a cursory glance reveals a multitude of unrestricted videos containing the image. If not, why not? Obviously, I've been updating my lawyer on this latest restriction of my work, as I have in all previous instances. Can I please have an express confirmation that you did indeed restrict my video at 419 after an unbiased review, and that mass reporting personal feelings of individual YouTube/Google staff members, or otherwise any other abuse of your policies, played no role in the final outcome? Can you confirm that any similar classical artwork is considered inappropriate, unsuitable nudity, or describe, again in detail, what it is and is not allowed to be shown, what is and is not allowed to be shown in said artwork? I'd retake that, but it's very hot in the hem. Can you confirm the extent of nudity that makes a difference between an age restriction and the outright removal of a video? For example, if I'm going to get restricted anyway, should I just enjoy the free pass and get my assets out? That should be all I need at this time, Charlie.
It took a day before they caved. Yes, they caved. Despite multiple insistences they were in the right, it took just a few awkward questions, and maybe the implication of legal action, for them to reverse their policy. I'm not going to do the Dalek voice again, it hurts my throat. Hi Steph, thanks for your response, and I am sorry about the confusion. I wanted to acknowledge your questions around our policies, and specifically Michelangelo's painting of the creation of Adam, but actually have an update for you. Upon further review, we have now removed the age restriction on this video. Occasionally, a video identified by our team is mistakenly actioned. When this is brought to our attention, we review the content and take appropriate action, including restoring videos or channels that had been removed, or, like in this case, removing the age restriction on your video. Specifically, we may allow nudity when the primary purpose is educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic, etc., and isn't gratuitous. I am sorry for your experience with this back and forth. Yeah, it's at this point I became convinced that maybe a human was talking, due to the slight attempt at flexing by name-checking the painting and painter. Despite that, most of that email is very obviously boilerplate and answers none of the questions I had. But would you look at that? Rather than answer a single one of my questions, rather than actually communicate with a content creator about the policies that affect them, YouTube would rather reverse course on a decision it had confirmed, reconfirmed, and stood by as immutable. Remember, at every step of this story, YouTube had claimed my video was carefully reviewed, that people had looked at the video and confirmed it deserved an age restriction. Then it just shrugs and leaves it at that? After what? Lying? I mean, how can I take it other than a lie? Either YouTube lied when it said it confirmed multiple times that my video was inappropriate and deserved an age restriction, or it's lying now by saying my video is appropriate and they simply lifted the restriction to get me off their back. Neither of those situations are really acceptable, are they? Am I supposed to believe that YouTube's so-called specialist review team is so inept they don't know their own policies and need multiple reviews alongside intense pressure from a creator, their fans, and their lawyer to get them to understand said policies? Even by YouTube's standards, I struggle to believe that level of sheer gratuitous ineptitude. I do not believe that what happened here was an honest mistake. I don't know if maybe my video hurt the fifis of some Zelda fans in YouTube's policy department, if YouTube just went along with the mob rule because it seemed the easiest decision at the time, if they were just going to extreme lengths to pretend the platform is governed by human beings rather than bots that can't understand context, or what. But they confirmed at multiple stages that this wasn't a mistake, that they carefully reviewed it, that multiple departments got involved to verify and re-verify the decision to restrict my video. Then, as soon as someone asks the right kind of uncomfortable questions, they suddenly back down, with no challenge, no explanation, no answer to a single thing asked the past 5 days? I'm supposed to take what happened here as a win. I got YouTube to cave, to backtrack on a decision it not only made but actively stood by multiple times. I demonstrated how, once put on the spot and asked to justify itself and its policies, YouTube would rather back down than rise to the smallest challenge. But ultimately, no. I'm not happy about this. YouTube's final communication is that I was punished for doing nothing wrong, that my video was stopped dead in its tracks for doing nothing wrong. That once again, harassment and attempts to silence critics via fraudulent use of YouTube's easily abusable systems has dealt harm to a content creator with no recompense offered, and not even an apology. Note how YouTube's email only apologised for the confusion and my experience with the back and forth, and not for the so-called mistake of attacking my video in the first place. I didn't even get a real sorry. That's not a win. That's YouTube.
What do you mean it's itchy? You're the one with a carapace. Is it a carapace? Shell. The same thing, isn't it? Anyway, I actually do have an interesting epilogue. You see, when they lifted the restriction, I knew they wouldn't say yes to the idea of like front paging the video or doing some sort of promotion, but I felt entitled to ask, because I am. At the time of filming, and this is the very last thing we're doing, at the last minute even, I just got an email back from Charlie, and I mean, he said no, obviously, but did offer a phone call to basically let me discuss my frustrations and what I discussed as a pattern of mistreatment and the facilitating of abuse directed at my platform. So, I guess, I mean, look, there is no way that is gonna end in anything productive, but maybe I'll take that call. Maybe I'll have a chat with Charlie. In the meantime, thank the good Lord above for me. Oh.